More examples of different data types here on this W3 Schools tutorial page. Some of them are very obvious, like string, integer, and float. Others require time to learn and understand. Here on this page, a list represents a general array data type in Python. If you need a collection of items like an array of integers, you can use Python list data type. Because this is a very popular data type, we need to learn how it works from the very beginning. Another important data type is a range. We need to understand range functionality since we often use ranges with for loops in Python. The ranges are similar to an arithmetic progression in mathematics. There is a starting number, an ending number, and a sequence of numbers in between, specified at a certain increment, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is incremented by 1, or for example 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, which is incremented by 2, or something like 10, 20, 30, and so on, which increments the numbers by 10. Unlike arithmetic progression in mathematics, Python range has a starting and ending number, so it is a finite sequence of numbers. A good example of a range can be sequence of index values, with which you can access specific elements in a list. We will have a chance to practice with different ranges when working with loops. Let's try an example of Python code that uses a range. I created another file named strcharsrange.py. You can see my full path on the title bar here on this idle editor window. So let's break this code to individual pieces. Because this is a longer example, I clicked idle options menu and then showed the line numbers. On line number 3, I create a string named ABC, which has 3 characters, the uppercase A, B, and C. On line number 4, I create a range, which is simply a sequence of values 0, 1, and 2. How is this done? We call Python function named range. Antonia, what does the range function do in Python?
The range function returns a sequence of numbers, starting from 0 by default, and increments by 1 by default, and stops before the specified number, in this case, 3.
Okay, let's run this program now. You can see it prints individual characters inside our string. First column is index of each character. The first index is 0. The second column shows encoding of a character such as 65, 66, and 67. These encodings represent uppercase characters A, B, and C accordingly. So instead of range 0 to length ABC, I could write simply range length of ABC, and it would be the same range. This is because range function is overloaded, meaning that it can be called with 1 or 2 or all 3 of its parameters. If I call a range function with only one parameter, the starting number is 0 by default, incremented by 1 also by default, and it's stopping at the value specified as the parameter. As you can see, the stopping value is not included in the resulting range. Okay, let's go back to the code and look at line number 9. It says for index in indices. This is an example of Python for loop using the range. The syntax means literally for every index in the range, we get a copy of index and we repeat the code indented by spaces 3 times. Index will assume values 0, 1, and 2, and we print the individual characters of our string. Antonia, can you tell me what does the ORD function do in this code on line number 10?
In Python, the ORD function returns the Unicode encoding for a character in the string. ABC followed by square brackets IDX retrieves the character at the specified index. And ORD function converts the encoding to an integer value, which we can print. Technically speaking, The function takes a unit-length string as an argument and returns the corresponding Unicode encoding equivalent.
Unit-length string mentioned by Antonia is actually a string with only one character in it. Well, as you can see, this small program uses a range, a for loop, and the ORD function for printing character encodings. There is a lot to understand here. Don't be upset if this code looks confusing. I intentionally gave you an example which uses Python range data type and does something useful with it. It will take some time to absorb how the loops and ranges work, and you don't need to memorize this information right now. We will talk a lot more about for loops and ranges when we cover the structure of Python loops in the future.